Uh, Before we dive into the world of Warhammer 40K, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. As a longtime enthusiast of Warhammer 40K lore, uh, I often find myself pondering the intricacies of this vast and complex universe, uh, with its diverse array of species, each with their own unique characteristics. It's like diving into a cosmic ocean teeming with fascinating stories waiting to be told. Warhammer 40,000. Space Marine 2 successfully immersed newcomers into the grim and lethal universe of 40K while satisfying longtime enthusiasts with intense Tyranid slaying. However, despite showcasing a multitude of aspects, particularly the various Space Marine chapters beyond the iconic Ultramarines, Space Marine 2 merely offered a taste of the expansive 40K universe. There is an abundance of untapped territory to delve into from this universe. And if Saber Interactive decides to revisit the series, one faction could be ideal for Space Marine of the original Space Marine had the somewhat comedic and goofy orcs as one of the main villain factions. Well, Space Marine 2 chose the more terrifying Tyranid Horde, and both featured other heretic factions like the Chaos Space Marines. Neither orcs nor Tyranids will likely be revisited in any big way going forward. So perhaps one of the best options for a sequel would be the cybernetic Necrons. With their diverse tech ranging from the long-range death marks to the close combat Canoptech spiders, it's essential for the player to adapt strategies based on the enemy they face. The Necrons are cool-looking creatures with skeletal cybernetic designs that contrast with the bulky Space Marines perfectly. They also fit the tone of what many casuals or newcomers associate with Warhammer 40,000. Newcomers might not expect how goofy the orcs can be with their reality warping powers based on belief, but the deadly Necrons with their skeletal designs are something that most wouldn't bat an eye at EV. Despite the cybernetic and technologically advanced nature of the Necrons, they are actually an ancient threat in the 40K universe. They were once a race called the Necronter and began as organic rather than mechanical, but were riddled with radiation sickness thanks to the hostile nature of their home world. Chained by the a running theme with the Necronter is their fear of death and a search for immortality, and that led them to search the stars for answers long before space, Marines, and Custodes were around. They went to war with the Old Ones because they refused to grant them immortality, and the war ended unfavorably for the Necrontyr, leading them to discover a way to communicate with the Cetan or celestial deities. The Necrontyr created bodies for these deities using living metal and revered them as divine beings. Tragically for the Necrontyr, they were ensnared by the Cetan and given immortality, which transformed their physical forms into living metal like that of the Cetan, henceforth becoming known as the Necrons. Previously enslaved Necrons, now indestructible with metallic bodies, resumed their battle against the Old Ones. This time they emerged victorious, but as soulless entities, they were unable to savor their immortality. They're under the leadership of Sarek, the Silent King. The Necrons revolted against their oppressors and continued a streak of military triumphs. They overthrew the Catan and imprisoned them, and they see Now, rulers of the galaxy, the Silent King was aware that this dominance would not last indefinitely. He ordered his people into a deep sleep to evade the emergence of the Eldari in approximately 60 million years. The Necrons were commanded to enter a deep sleep by the time Space Marine 1 and 2 were set, featuring Titus and his Space Marines wielding bolt guns. The Necrons had stirred from their slumber, yet not all of them had awakened simultaneously. In comparison to most fictional universes, Warhammer stands out as one of the deepest and most detailed. Diving into it can sometimes feel like tumbling endlessly into a labyrinth filled with peculiar details, such as the orcs' ability to breathe in space due to their reality warping powers, allowing them to open windows on their spaceships. With the wealth of lore that Space Marine 3 possesses, there's enough content for a lengthy campaign to explore, and yet still leave you feeling as if you've barely touched upon the vastness of the universe's offerings. That many of the Warhammer 40K factions are visually rich, ranging from the Leagues of Votann or Space Dwarves to the latest and rather controversially disliked how a new Space Marine game could serve as a platform to exhibit the diverse beauty of this universe. However, one challenge might be the disparate tones that certain factions present, which works well for tabletop gaming, but could make a video game narrative feel disjointed and jarring if not managed carefully. And the next Space Marine game may need to be selective in its representation, potentially excluding some factions to maintain a consistent and cohesive storyline. Still, there's no reason that Saber Interactive can't break the current mold that it has made for the Space Marine games and have as many factions as it wants. Pretty much every faction is at war with each other, and most are at war with themselves. So having loads of factions would make the sequel feel like a war on many fronts. That still, if the formula presented in Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2 is to be followed, then the Necrons should be the main villains of the sequel. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye. Bye-bye.